From JBS Studios in Greater New York, this is the JBS News Update with Teisha Bader.
I'm Teisha Bader with the JBS News Update for Monday, November the 18th, 2019. We open with a historic shift in U.S. policy towards Israeli settlements, as delivered this afternoon by U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo.
The Trump administration is reversing the Obama administration's approach towards Israeli settlements. U.S. public statements on settlement activities in the West Bank have been inconsistent over decades. In 1978, the Carter administration categorically concluded that Israel's establishment of civilian settlements was inconsistent with international law. However, in 1981, President Reagan disagreed with that conclusion and stated that he didn't believe that the settlements were inherently illegal. Subsequent administrations recognized that unrestrained settlement activity could be an obstacle to peace, but they wisely and prudently recognized that dwelling on legal positions didn't advance peace. However, in December 2016, at the very end of the previous administration, Secretary Kerry changed decades of this careful bipartisan approach by publicly reaffirming the supposed illegality of settlements. After carefully studying all sides of the legal debate, this administration agrees with President Reagan. The establishment of Israeli civilian settlements in the West Bank is not, per se, inconsistent with international law. I want to emphasize several important considerations. First, look, we recognize that as Israeli courts have that legal conclusions relating to individual settlements must depend on an assessment of specific facts and circumstances on the ground. Therefore, the United States government is expressing no view on the legal status of any individual settlement. The Israeli legal system affords an opportunity to challenge settlement activity and assess humanitarian considerations connected to it. Israeli courts have confirmed the legality of certain settlement activities and has concluded that others cannot be legally sustained. Second, we're not addressing or prejudging the ultimate status of the West Bank. This is for the Israelis and the Palestinians to negotiate. International law does not compel a particular outcome nor create any legal obstacle to a negotiated resolution. Third, the conclusion that we will no longer recognize Israeli settlements as per se inconsistent with international law is based on the unique facts, history, and circumstances presented by the establishment of civilian settlements in the West Bank. Our decision today does not prejudice or decide legal conclusions regarding situations in any other parts of the world. And finally, calling the establishment of civilian settlements inconsistent with international law hasn't worked. It hasn't advanced the cause of peace. The hard truth is there will never be a judicial resolution to the conflict, and arguments about who is right and wrong as a matter of international law will not bring peace. This is a complex political problem that can only be solved by negotiations between the Israelis and the Palestinians. The United States remains deeply committed to helping facilitate peace, and I will do everything I can to help this cause. The United States encourages the Israelis and the Palestinians to resolve the status of Israeli settlements in the West Bank in any final status negotiations. And further, we encourage both sides to find a solution that protects the security and welfare of Palestinians and Israelis alike.
2 more rockets were fired at southern Israel late Friday night from Gaza, once again interrupting a delicate ceasefire brokered earlier last week by Egypt between Palestinian terror groups in Gaza and Israel. The 2 projectiles Friday night were aimed at the city of Beersheba. They were both intercepted by the Iron Dome. The IDF struck a number of Hamas terror targets in Gaza in response. Well, the deadline for Blue and White Party leader Benny Gantz is fast approaching, and Israel's president is once again urging the formation of a unity government. Gantz has until midnight this Wednesday to form a coalition, and up until now, negotiations with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his Likud party have not shown any real progress, bringing the possibility of Israel heading to a 3rd round of elections closer. Speaking yesterday at a visit to Netivot, one of the southern Israeli cities targeted by the recent rocket attacks from Gaza, President Rivlin stressed that this is not what the citizens of Israel want, telling Likud and Blue and White to get a grip and understand that the people of Israel have had enough of elections, that a unity government with rotational leadership is the answer. Rivlin said, "We will all be together in a shared desire for a good country, Jewish and democratic, democratic and Jewish." Netanyahu warned last night and again this morning that Gantz could form a minority government supported by the Joint Arab List. Remarks he made have been called incitement by Gantz and other members of his party. Netanyahu said in his speeches, which were held in the framework of emergency rallies and meetings, that such a minority government would be a, quote, real danger to Israel and to the people of Israel, that it would be reliant on terror supporters. While Gantz has met with leaders of the Joint List, he has not said whether he supports the establishment of a minority government with their support. And the likelihood that he would form such a coalition seems quite slim. The Graduate Student Union at the University of Toronto has now apologized for suggesting that they would not support having kosher food on campus. The student union was asked to officially support the Kosher Forward campaign led by Hillel, the Jewish student organization. The student union answered in an email Friday that supporting the campaign would go against the will of the membership, as Hillel, they wrote, has conducted pro-Israel activities. Hillel strongly condemned the response, saying it was a blatant attempt to marginalize Jewish students, saying that the inability to separate Jewish individuals from the Israeli government actions is indeed a form of anti-Semitism. The student union apologized last night, saying the email response was not on behalf of its executive committee, but nonetheless, they were deeply sorry and did not intend to do harm, adding that a decision about the kosher food motion had not yet been made, but that they had reached out to Hillel for a meeting. Hillel said it appreciates the apology, though it noted this apology does not address the anti-Semitic nature of their original response. This is the core issue that must be discussed, saying they looked forward to speaking with the executive board of the Graduate Student Union soon. A young Jewish actress passed away earlier this month after suffering a massive asthma attack that led to cardiac arrest. 13-year-old Laurel Griggs made her Broadway debut in Tennessee Williams' Cat on a Hot Tin Roof at the age of 6. Most recently, she was part of the cast of the musical Once on Broadway. Griggs was also involved in Broadway Cares Equity Fights AIDS, and her family asked that donations could be made to the charity in her memory. Well, Israel became the first country in the world to perform a new artificial meniscus transplant. The new surface implant was developed in Israel by Active Implants LLC and performed by two leading surgeons, Dr. Gabriel Agar from Shamir Medical Center and Dr. Ran Arbel from Ramat Aviv Medical Center. The new implant is made of medical-grade plastic. It is inserted into the knee joint and requires no fixation to bone or soft tissues, meaning patients can go home soon after surgery. Taking a look now at our programming for tonight on JBS from Monday, November the 18th. At 7 o'clock, it's The Wisdom of Dr. Ruth. At 7:30, Professor Richard Landis describes the presence of anti-Semitism throughout the ages in a program of ISGAP. At 9, Mark Golub sits down with Dr. Charles Jacobs, who discusses Avi Goldwasser's documentary, Hate Spaces, The Politics of Intolerance on Campus. At 10, the creators of the hit Netflix series Fauda speak at the 92nd Street Y. And coming up right after this newscast, it's Good Week Israel. And that's the JBS News Update for Monday, November the 18th, 2019. I'm Teisha Bader.